Lesson number 76 is about consecutive integers. And the first problem says find three consecutive integers such that the sum of the first and the third is 146. So consecutive just means in a row. So maybe we had the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Those are three consecutive integers. Now, if we wanted to answer this question, the first number and the third number, when we add them together, we find the sum, it must be equal to 146. So if we looked at this one, the first number and the third number, we find the sum of those, 1 plus 3, equals 4. So for this example, these are not the right numbers. In order to do a problem like this, we need some variables. So for our consecutive integers, let's say the first one is going to be called n, because it's a number. The second one is going to be called n plus 1, because it's a number plus 1 more, like 2 is 1 more than 1. And our third number is going to be n plus 2. Now in order to solve this, find three consecutive integers such that the sum of the first and the third is 146. Well, we need to take the first and the third, we need to add them together to get 146. So we could say n plus 2 equals 146. Now when we do this, we want to put n plus 2 in parentheses because that's one number. And in order to solve, we need to go ahead and we need to add like terms. N plus n, well that's 2n. So we get 2n plus 2 equals 146. Then in order to solve for n, let's subtract 2 from both sides. So we're going to get 2n is equal to 144. Then we have to divide both numbers by 2. 144 divided by 2 is going to tell us what n is equal to. So half of 144, that's 72. So n must be equal to 72. And what this tells us in our problem, if n is 72, n plus 1 must be 73, and n plus 2 must be 74. Now to check our answer, let's say n and n plus 2. If we take those two numbers and add them together, did they give us 146? 72 plus 74? Yes, those do add up to 146. So we've got our correct answers. And the way we report this is to say 72, 73, 74. Because the problem said find three consecutive integers. We've got our answers. We need to report all three of them to get this one correct. Let's move on to our next question. Find four consecutive integers such that 6 times the sum of the first and fourth is 26 less than 10 times the third. So four consecutive integers. We're going to have n plus 1, n plus 2, and n plus 3. So find four consecutive integers such that 6 times the sum of the first and the fourth. So the first and the fourth. And we need to find 6 times the sum of the first and the fourth. So the sum of the first and the fourth is going to be n plus 3. Then we've got to take 6 times the sum of those. So we're going to multiply all that by 6. And that is 26 less than 10 times the third. Well, the third is n plus 2. So we're going to get n plus 2, and we're going to multiply that times 10. And we're going to take 26 less than it. The hardest part about this problem is not necessarily solving for our unknown variable. It's writing out the whole equation. Now let's solve. N plus n is 2n. So we're going to get 6 times 2n plus 3. That's going to be equal to, well, we can use the distributive property, and we're going to get 10n plus 10 times 2 is 20 minus 26. Now we can simplify to solve. 6 times 2n is 12n, plus 6 times 3, that's 18. That's going to be equal to 10n and 20 minus 26, that's negative 6. Then we can continue to solve. Let's subtract 10n from both sides, so we get all of our n's together. 12n minus 10n, that's 2n, plus 18 is equal to negative 6. Let's subtract 18 from both sides. So we get closer to solving for our n. We'd get 2n is equal to negative 6 plus negative 18, or negative 6 minus 18 more, That's going to be negative 24. So 2 times what number is equal to negative 24? Well, that must be 12, because 2 times negative 12 is going to be equal to negative 24. So we've got our n value. N must be equal to negative 12, because that's what our number is. So our first n is going to be negative 12. N plus 1 would be negative 11, because we're getting bigger. Then we have negative 10 and negative 9. So we've got our list of 4 answers. Those are our 4 consecutive integers. Remember, integers are just positives or whole numbers and their opposites. And we have to be sure we list 4 because it says find 4 consecutive integers. So that's how we'll solve this problem. Lesson practice will be on page 314. Make sure you've got your notes complete, and I'll see you during our next class.